Very warm welcome to my panelists. Earlier in the day today, Gayatri and Karan spoke about building institutions which outlive us all. These three gentlemen that I have on my panel today, they are possibly in the middle of building what is going to be one of the greatest global innovations in digital commerce. In the next 40 minutes, we will take you through an exhilarating journey and demystify the open trade ecosystem, explore friction points, areas of collaboration, but most importantly, explore the endless possibilities that the network can possibly unlock for entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining in, gentlemen. What we will, we'll start off with my first question that I'll direct towards both Anil and Koshy. Anil, if you can just help us demystify open trade and ONDC for the audience, right? And that would be a great starting point.
Thank you, Surajit, for having me here, and it's my privilege to be part of this esteemed panel in this very important event of Capital Circuit. Now, e-commerce today is run on e-commerce platforms. One platform will have one buyer or a number of buyers, a number of sellers. And of course, there is a payment gateway, they have some logistics arrangements and all that. But the way this interaction takes place between the buyer side and the seller side and the logistics service providers is a black box for anyone, right? It is a black box for the world. Only the platform knows how the black box functions, how the buyers are connected to the sellers, how the logistics providers are connected to the sellers, and they have no control on that interaction. Now, what ONDC is attempting to do is open up this black box totally based on standards. So, when you have to, this is something like UPI. So, if, for example, there are 300 banks in this country, for example, and if one bank has to do transactions with the rest of 299 banks, of establishing 299 two-way communication channels, they have simply adopted the UPI, which sets the standards for everyone. Anyone who adopts that standard is able to interact with anyone else who has adopted the standard. Now, this is what is ONDC. Now, what government is doing is, we have accepted these standards, which are given by Sujith and his team at Beckn. We've said these are the standards that government should promote, and then asking all the network providers, the private companies, to adopt these standards voluntarily. We are not mandating adoption of these standards. So it's an open system based on open standards developed by our Indian techies, Indian Beckn Foundation and open source community. And we are actually, through this ONDC network, we are also trying to improve upon these standards, evolving these standards also. So it's an open system where if you are just a buyer, you can come onto the network, you will find sellers. If you are just a seller, you come onto the network, you will find enough buyers and enough logistics to realize any of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Anil. One of the things that I noticed is that you've used the word network rather than platforms or marketplaces, right? Koshy, if you could just, spend a couple of minutes on this, right? How do we appreciate the difference between platforms and marketplaces that we've been so used to till date, right? And then, start appreciating the network that ONDC is building.
Anil beautifully explained to you how these protocols are enabling multiple building blocks to talk to each other in a common language. So currently, if you look at a platform-centric approach, has their own proprietary technology stack, which will help their buyers and sellers to talk to each other. And which means that if I bring some new sellers through a platform, my own platform, I will not be able to access the same sellers unless I have a mechanism to onboard them, and vice versa. So what we have done is, we have enabled unbundling of this building blocks of transactions like buyer interface and seller interface and so on and so forth. and enabled a protocol which should make it interoperable so that the end consumer and the end seller have a seamless commerce experience. So they will not experience that fact that buyer platform and seller platform is coming from two legal entities. As far as they're concerned, they put their request in the buyer platform. It got seamlessly went to every sellers in the country, got a response, they chose the right one. But as far as they're concerned, it's seamless. That is the thing. And I'm just adding one more very interesting dimension to what Anil said. Is that when you have such proprietary model as it exists today, it has a natural tendency to be self-concentrating. You have seen anywhere and everywhere in the world that because of this proprietary walled gardens, the network externalities will result in network concentration where it is a winner takes it all model. Whereas when you have unbundled and interoperable network, it is a self-correcting model. Why I call it self-correcting is every buyer will be able to access every seller, and as Anil very nicely explained that it works, which means that if a buying platform is able to provide something better services, he has the ability to attract more buyers and vice versa. So the competition that it will drive and the innovation it bringing in more and more platform or more and more applications in the network will, instead of making the market concentrated, will become more democratic. Thus, it become a self-correcting market. That's one just additional dimension of that.
Phenomenal explanation, Koshy. But when we move away from, say, the marketplace to a network kind of a model, right? One of the questions that obviously, it has to be asked is, what does it mean for the marketplaces which have already put in, billions and billions of dollars to initially create that ecosystem, right? What does it mean for them, the existing marketplaces? What does it mean for the sellers who are there? What does it mean for the consumers, right? If you can just throw some light on that, Koshy, that would be really helpful.
Let me just add some points. See, if you really look at it, it's nice that we had some people coming and establishing marketplaces with both buyer side and seller side there. Okay. So if you go a little deeper, Surajit, the total penetration of the digital commerce in our country for the buyer side is some 6 to 7%, maybe 8% this year. And for the seller side, it's probably 1%. That means what we're saying is the extent of, the depth of the penetration is really limited. Unfortunately, Sujith, we are all belong to that 2% of the upper, segment in our society that where penetration might be 95%, but that's not India. India has a very large and diverse population and sellers and retailers and MSMEs and so on and so forth. So it is good that they have managed to bring the privileged segment of the market as an early adopters, which is fantastic. But what we are saying is now we need to extend. Like in the example Anil explained to you, UPI, it was always, we had digital transaction, 200, 300 million transaction every month. Now it is 6 to 7 billion transaction because the extent of participation has expanded. But the same thing will happen. And for the people who are already established, they have nothing lost. And they will see, and I suspect that they will see beauty in participating in this larger market with them providing their own service levels to their own client, segment of sellers and buyers who will continue to survive and who will continue to grow. Like in the UPI, we still have card, we still have all the other means of transaction. They still have not lost the number of transactions, it's only increased. Only thing, the market has increased. And that is what we are expecting. So we will enable diverse segments of sellers and buyers to be represented by diverse kind of platforms, all of them talking in the same language.
Thanks so much, Koshy. So expanding from India to Bharat, creating a better pie, right? Our former chief economic advisor earlier in one of the panels spoke about this, right? That do we essentially extend credit services to those who really need it? And that's exactly, I think, the philosophy behind what you're building at ONDC, right? Anil, this idea came out of DPIIT. Just wanted to hear from you, right? What were the market inefficiencies that you were essentially looking at tackling, right? How are you seeing ONDC evolve over a period of time in terms of addressing those inefficiencies?
See, let me just give you a brief of how this idea of ONDC came about. It was 2020 and the nation was into lockdown. The society as such, the country as such, was in a state of kind of an emergency where we were looking at providing all kinds of support to different sections of society. We were not only working with industry, we were not only working with health, medical, we were also looking at providing essential services, essential supplies to citizens who are trapped in containment zones. And please remember, March to June 2020, we had national lockdown where we had whole lots of citizens trapped in containment zones. Everything was closed door. Our minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, he created 6 working groups headed by different officers to look at different aspects of managing the crisis and the way government could connect to different stakeholders and support the society. I was assigned this responsibility of looking at and technological interventions on how we could support the society. Now, we had a steering committee where we had some members of the industry, some startups, and then we were interacting with some citizens. And then we realized, one of the major issues that needed to be addressed was that the local kirana store was not connected to citizens who are contained in his area, in his vicinity, in the containment zones. They were not able to discover each other. Now, we tried a number of things across the states, across the number of districts. We tried to onboard a particular retailer onto a particular platform, and they said, okay, now the buyers can buy from this platform. But then, it does not serve the purpose because whole lot of buyers are using different platforms. So if you want to say that, one buyer has to get onboarded onto one platform, and then he has to get onboarded onto second one and the third one to be able to cater to his entire vicinity. Because you see that buyers are on different platforms. They are not using one single platform e-commerce. And then when we tried this, then we realized how difficult it is for a retailer to get his KYC done on one platform, then his catalog made, then his storefront made, and then, the process of charging commissions, the process of discovery on the platform. You may get your catalog done, you may have a storefront, but there is no guarantee that when somebody is searching for a product that you have, you will be listed in the first page. If you are listed on the 7th page, doesn't make any sense. Platform will say, unless you advertise with me, your number, you are not listed there. Then there are issues of settlement of payments and commissions and everything. So every platform will have its own policies which will govern that particular retailer. Now you see, India is a country of traders. We have large, very, very large number of retailers. One of the estimates says that we have 6 to 8 crore retail shops across the countries. Now, there are different versions, but, you can say that this is a very exaggerated number, but still, 8 crore is one number. 6 crore is another number. And these are spread across cities, villages, tier 2, tier 3. Now, if you were to give them opportunities of expanding their businesses, getting onto e-commerce platforms, it is very difficult for us to say that, okay, platform 1, platform 2, there are n number of platforms, n number of different policies. I just asked my steering committee, is it not that, we standardize this entire thing? How do you get the KYC done? How do you create a catalog? How do you search? How do you discover? And then payment, of course, was already solved. Then logistics, can we get this done? And Sujith says, yes, we are working on it. We can try this. I said, why? Let's do this. That is how this ONDC was born in that steering committee meeting. Sujith will remember it very well. Then they had some idea on how this could be taken forward. We developed a steering committee of a number of ministries in government of India. Again, we had to explain. They asked, is government getting into business? A whole lot of questions were asked. But finally, I'm happy that the stage we have, the distance that we have covered in the last 2 years is really commendable. And now that we have a team, a company to take this work full time with all commitments, with best of the minds, we are really looking at a very, very positive future for open standards in entire e-commerce value chain.
Thank you so much, Anil. The startup ecosystem is truly arrived, and you know it because the greatest innovations are, in some sense, coming from the government, the regulator. You're giving it a giving the world a make from India kind of a solution, right? Sujith, I just want to kind of expand on that, on what Anil said, right? I mean, we are seeing this movement from platforms, and almost entering the era of, moving away from standardized handshakes between within closed platforms to moving to the era of open protocols. So how has this journey been? How have you seen this innovation unfold, right? While working at ONDC or working with ONDC.
Sure. Thanks, Sujith. Great question there. I would like to offer a bit of a correction. I think we're not moving from platforms to protocols. We are moving back to protocols, because that's pretty much how internet was built. If you look at internet, right from the packet switching days to the days of HTTP, the protocol, it has been fundamentally been decentralized, and internet did not have an intermediary in between for you to connect your browser to any website. But I think the idea definitely is resonating a lot more now. Thanks to the platform-based digital economy growth in the last 2 decades, I think you'll have to give it to them that we have online shopping possible, online payments possible, all that. But I think somewhere, if you're looking at a significant market expansion, we looked at the UPI model, and it says that expansion is possible when you actually not look at one platform, but a network of platforms and a protocol-based ecosystem. That's what UPI did. And second, if you want to make it inclusive, where the smallest of traders can stand up on their own feet, at their own command, with their own rules and terms, participate in digital economy, with the right of doing digital economy. If that, then friction has to go down. And for that, I think the digital infrastructure that can emit power, empower the users and not accrue power seems to be the protocols. I think protocol seems to be a very natural, relevant, and a timely requirement in terms of driving equal participation, inclusion, and scale at the same time, where you're offering choice and the ability to stand up on your own feet and deliver. And I think the journey we are seeing with ONDC seems to be resonating that very well. I think across discussions, across forums, across participants, not just the small platforms, the big platform, the actual seller trading community, across mobility, restaurants, grocery, I think we are seeing a significant sort of alignment of this approach, which we think that it's a win-win. It's not a winner take all, it's a win-win. And everybody, the cost of doing business online goes down. I just have to do one thing. The discovery is something, some other platform does it for me, and the copious amount of demand is something that I can access by just connecting to the network. I think that recognition is quite clear and vivid, and it seems like a good progress so far.
Great, Sujith. I have a follow-up on that. You did mention that that one thing, right? And it's not a small thing, right? Connecting to the network. Now, for the 6 to 8 crore retailers which are there in the country, let's take a very simple example, right? I mean, this use case is not just retail. We also talk about, logistics. You also talk about, commerce in terms of travel websites, which are travel apps, which are there, right? Take a small, say a 10 fleet operator, right? How does he build out the storefront, or for that matter, a retailer, right? How does that retailer build out the storefront using this protocol? How, that is something that, a lot of the e-commerce platforms were solving in terms of, making it, extremely easy for them to sign up.
Absolutely. No, great question again. I think, so if you look at a typical small business wanting to go online, is he a software developer or a platform builder himself, herself? I don't think so. They will probably need somebody, maybe friends or family, or a software or a platform provider to build it for them, to digitize the catalog, get the order management, the pricing of the catalogs and the fulfillment part, all those sort of building blocks ready. But the biggest problem is not about just the software. I mean, what do I do once I have the software? I still have to go acquire the demand, acquire customers, service those customers. And that's a huge, huge spend. We call it the marketing spend, the customer acquisition spends we are talking about. That is huge. So even if we have technology, there is a rite of passage to participate in digital economy because of this. What if we open up that possibility with some form of a structure, some form of a broader inclusive policies, enabling policies? What if I just take care of getting my catalog, whether it's 50 assortments from my Kirana store or even a Thelewala putting 5 items from their catalog online, but not worry about being naturally discoverable for any person in my neighborhood to discover me, the point that Anilji was making, during the lockdown. If that natural discoverability level, then I think there's a larger motivation for the sellers and their digital partners, the small and big entrepreneurs, the technopreneurs, to start building solutions without much of capital to quickly put together a small little app, a basic app. It could even be a chat-based app to put 5-20 items of a catalog item to say, hey, I'm available online to receive an order. That change, this thing is one something that I think everybody should recognize. And yes, it takes somebody like that. Today, we are seeing a variety of such software providers building such solutions to just get them connected to the network. It's not a big deal. We have already seen some. There are enough reference applications which are enabled by the protocol that are already in place. And we have some participants who are actually young entrepreneurs. Some of these are extremely new, just starting off with ONDC. So you have such entrepreneurs coming in to take care of the wider expanse of the trader population to get them online.
Right. Anil, to a large extent, if you're solving for discoverability, if you're solving for some of the challenges that the traders face, right, and particularly, you've seen this through COVID, right? One of the arguments could possibly be that is the government becoming an operator, right? So how would you respond to that?
That is a question that I had to answer before I got approval of this project. Because the government was very clear, government doesn't want to get into business. We don't want to enter into any kind of process where we have any liabilities. We are very clear. Government has only enabled, seeded a project. ONDC is an idea that the government has enabled. We have given a grant of initially 2 crores to QCI to, incubate this project. When they came up with some results, we reviewed that and we said, okay, we'll give you another grant of 10 crores. And then that is how ONDC as a company was born. We are not here to do business. Why? See, what is ONDC? ONDC is not, number one, it is not a platform. ONDC is about creation of standards and encouraging private companies to adopt those standards. So it is about, we are developing a network based on standards like BIS does. For example, like we have these air conditioners. You can say that, if you have to sell air conditioners in India, they have to follow certain standards. Government does that job. Government does a regulatory job. But there, those standards are mandatory. And that is where, we say, okay, this is for the safety of society that we need to have these standards. In this particular case, we have just adopted these standards and we are saying these standards are voluntary. We are not forcing anyone to adopt these standards. That is why we are only enabling companies to come and exchange information based on these standards. We are helping develop this network. And so we are not an e-commerce operator in the strict sense of the term. E-commerce operator is somebody, as Sujith said, it is about creating a protocol, like, for example, like SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So, you have one platform, you have another platform, they are exchanging emails based on one protocol. We have just created protocols helping others adopt those protocols. So we are absolutely not in business. We are only helping huge amount of innovation, entrepreneurs to develop their own businesses based on these standards, which will help, the larger objective of the government, which is digitization and democratization of e-commerce in this country. That is why we are absolutely clear, legally or otherwise, administratively, we are not into business. Number one. Number two, if you look at the structure of the company that we have created, we are very clear that government doesn't want to be in the day-to-day operations of that company. So we've raised money. Government has raised money. We've raised money from best of the national institutions. We've raised 255 crores given to a company where we have structured it as non-profit company. It's a Section 8 company. We don't want that company to make profits like NPCI. That is what the government has done. We don't want stakeholders to someday not their policies to start making money for themselves. It needs to work on the objectives of Government of India for the welfare of the larger sections of the society. It is, we have Koshy is appointed as the CEO, thoroughly a professional. He has total freedom on building his own team. There is absolutely no interference into his work. Government, out of this 15 people board, government has only 3 nominees, which we have not yet nominated. They are all on their own. They are functioning totally on their own. Government only is doing some strategic directions where there are priorities for the team to work, which is fair, I think. That's all. And we are not getting into day-to-day operations also. So government is not at all into, doing business or being an operator by itself.
Anil, I cannot tell you how heartwarming it was to hear that, right? Turning to the man of the moment, Koshy, as the CEO of ONDC, you're already live for 60 days. Just take us through that journey. What have been your experiences? What is working really well? What are the things that you have to come back and fix?
Okay, so let me just help you to understand what we are attempting and how we are proceeding. As both Anil and Sujith very beautifully explained, this is no central platform. There's no central system. We created the protocol, we created a registry, we are creating some common assets that is relevant for all the network participants to work together. But the network will work only if you have participants, all of them with their platforms and applications. So if you look at, supposing I'm launching a new bank, 80% of the system is a central system and 20% will be there, some other entities connecting. Whereas in this case, in this network, there is no central common infrastructure which is, forming 80%. Network will form only when there are other entities come with their unique applications which are providing services to their kind of clients. At the same time, they are all able to talk to each other using the protocol that Anil and Sujith explained. So what we realized that the best way to sort of get the things tested out and scale is to do an organic process. So we, after collective thinking, decided to, work with some entities who have been the leaders in coming with us and, helping us in the journey. Said that we will have 5 seller platforms, 1 buyer platform, 1 logistics platform, all dealing in one of the most difficult, domain, which is grocery and, food, and to do actual transaction with actual sellers and actual buyers, but on a limited purpose by invitation so that we can experience the kind of field expectations, challenges, problems, and so on and so forth. So all participants practically came together, and we also wanted to see the diversity across the country. So we looked at Bhopal, then Delhi, Bangalore, Coimbatore, and Shillong. You can see all parts of the country with few sellers doing this stuff. And we were able to understand what are the kind of challenges. We have to bring the optimization of the registry, the gateway in between, which is a common infrastructure that was launched on the first day. What is the kind of fine tuning that is needed? How do we help these sellers to get their catalog digitized and upload in a very seamless fashion? How do you explain and enable the small and medium enterprises to do their day-to-day operations and business processes, and develop a sort of playbook that can become a reference for the scale-up? Because the big guys will eventually come by themselves and they don't need any help, and they will have their own capability and they will lay their own time. Whereas as Anil explained, we want to make sure that It is not just a place where the biggies come. Rather, we want to make sure that the small people are there on the first day and given all the support. So we were working on that one, everyday variety of transactions with transaction with the wallet, with the UPI payment, with and so on and so forth, returns, cancellation, all of them have been tested out. So what we are now doing is, like, for example, we already added the 660, which is Lucknow, and where we checked up the ODOP coming online. In fact, it has been a special initiative by Anil. Get ODOP as a reference. Now that can form a template for other states to come. And now we have added, for example, with that we added like garments and home products. So in the coming days, what we are going to do is we are going to on a day-to-day basis increase the number of sellers, number of buyers, number of seller applications, number of buyer applications, number of cities, and so on and so forth, so that the network will grow in an organic fashion in the coming months, so that by next year it will become a truly national, and we can see the hockey stick bend taking off. The beauty is that because of the kind of interest which are demonstrated, and because we have actually done real transaction, not PPT presentations, like you said, within Anil explained you how when we actually set up a company. Within the few months' time, we demonstrated the real transaction, and that has given a lot of confidence. And as on today, we are seeing at least about 20-25 new companies coming in our weekly discussions on how to onboard. And like we said, 8 of them are live. Another 10 of them may go live in the next 1 month's time. And totally, as of today, about 150 of them are in various stages. They've all given in writing that their intent to be there, which has big and small. And we are seeing that every week, something like 15, 20 people, 20 entities are coming and joining this, what we call the pipeline. But they will all have their own time. It's not like an abracadabra. It's not like download an app and put it there, because they have to, in addition to the technology is that way simple. In addition, they have to put an appropriate process of the whole value chain of, sales transactions. So that's what we are going through, and we are very comfortable on this journey and taking off in the near future.
Fantastic, Koshy. Koshy, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that the big guys will come, but the real benefit is when the smaller guys start independently coming onto this network, right? So one of the things with the big guys, right, with the big platforms, is also that these platforms introduce trust and reliability in the transaction, right? I mean, say returns, payments, all of that, right? So how is ONDC looking at building or delivering that same element of trust or guarantee in the transaction, even when the independent guys latch onto the network?
Okay, I think I can see that your time is really down. Let me just try to give a quick answer. If you really look at how does the big guys manage to give you this trust? See, even there, they have a buyer platform and a seller platform which talk to each other. Right. What they do is they allow the buyers like you and me to go to the buyer plan, place an offer, and if there's a complaint, put it there, and they will seamlessly transfer that complaint to the seller. And the seller, because of three things, they will sort of help to resolve the thing. One, they have a contractual commitment. Second, the platform has significant amount of their funds in their under custody. And third is a reputation that they keep it in there. If you look at all these things are possible in an open network too. For example, only thing you will have different possibilities. I can be a buyer platform who says that, and for a buyer platform, like I said earlier, he has nobody else but the buyer. There is no seller who is giving him money and hafta and special incentives and so on and so forth. So he has to take special attention to give the buyer a happy experience. So he is the one, same like you will put your complaint to the buyer application, who will seamlessly push to the seller application. And the seller application, while they might be two legal entities, it is possible that a financial arrangement will say that unless you are able to meet the thing, that you will not get the money. Probably on another seller application, say I'm buyer application, say that I might be running a discount store. Okay, so there the terms of the trade and the terms of SLA are different. So this market will allow different kind of buyer-seller combination to seamlessly exist, as is today in the physical world. You see the same thing in the 90% of the market which is physical. Correct. In addition to that, one of the most important to keep in mind is ONDC as a network manager has a lot of disciplining processes in place for all of us to work together in a disciplined fashion. One, it's not like a flea market where anybody can come and plug in. So first they have to establish their credibility, who they are, some amount of KYC. Then the application has to be tested. They have to sign an agreement for good behavior in the thing. ONDC will publish a network-wide reputation. ONDC will publish the status of all grievances that's happening in every network participant, and how many of them are getting resolved and how many getting dispute. All of them will become public. So which would mean that the seller applications who do not have now a set of captive buyers will go out of the way to make sure that they and their sellers behave. Otherwise, they get kicked out. Now, on long term, that's why I explained in the first thing, it's a self-correcting model. So what we would see is that instead of self-concentration and possible not so healthy practices, this will in a true democratic fashion ensure better behavior. And ONDC, in addition to that, also will put up something like the online dispute resolution mechanism framework and so on and so forth, which within the existing legal framework will act as a further addition to bring in more discipline. I have lots more to say, but I think the time is running out. It's all for you, Surajit.
Sure. I think we could keep on talking about this, but I want to cover two more points very quickly, right? So e-commerce also saw a lot of innovation in terms of credit products, right? You saw BNPL, embedded finance, all of that, right? And there was a huge data play there as well, right? So with the ONDC network, how do you think credit products will need to evolve, right? I mean, and do you see an interplay? Is there an interplay between the other network, the OCEN network and ONDC that you think?
Valid point. You'll see a lot of innovation happening there too. First and foremost, when you have more and more transactions, there are more sellers coming digital. Okay, there are more and these sellers will have more digital transaction. So which would mean that they have a lot of verifiable commercial transaction that can form the foundations on which the lending agencies will be able to provide credit, not just asking for financial assets or any other hardcore assets for them to pawn. Okay, so that way this is creating the raw material for enhanced working capital loan. And secondly, many ways it could come. The innovation could be many of the times some of the banks may come and say, I will set up a seller platform so that I can see all the transaction of my sellers in my platform and extend the credit. Some seller platform will go and say that I will seamlessly integrate with OCEN so that I can offer multiple opportunities for the sellers to get working capital loan. So foundation, the raw material for credit is a digital transaction, verifiable digital transaction. It is going to explode in numbers. Not that they are giving more credit providers, more basis for credit will come. So from 7% of market, if it becomes 25% of the market, you are expanding the possibility 5 times, 4 times, 5 times. So, and then with the multiple entities becoming the seller platforms, and OCEN sort of in parallelly getting more and more expanded between the interplay. That's why there is a seamless interplay of this data. You would see the potentials exploding if it was only one, just OCEN without, just OCEN without, ONDC wouldn't be as big. And the ONDC will naturally able to feed onto OCEN and take the benefit of it for the end consumers.
Right. Anil, and I'll direct the final question to you. When you were thinking about the ONDC network, right? I know we talk about trading in terms of more retail, but there's this huge SME base which supplies almost 60% of the suppliers, right? To the industry is the SME base, right? Do you see the ONDC network having a play in B2B commerce? Is this segment also going to come up? Was that something that you had thought of?
See, before I come to answer that B2B question, let me tell you one very important development that has taken place yesterday, as of yesterday. So we had this GST Council meeting where the government has exempted all the small retailers who have their threshold value less than 40 lakhs supplying goods from GST registration to do e-commerce. Now, what this means is that today, any seller, if he wants to get onto e-commerce, he needs a registration. Now, tomorrow, starting 1st of January 23, only with a PAN card, you have a PAN number, you will be able to get onto any e-commerce platform for intrastate rates, intrastate. So you can sell within the state. Ultimately, it's all about e-commerce. Now, when you look at this reform, which we had been wanting and we've been pioneering, so now this is a huge enabling factor for entire e-commerce sector and for the entire retail sector. Now, on the strength of this simple thing, huge innovation, entrepreneurs and businesses are likely to come on. Now, when it comes to B2B, of course, there is a huge opportunity for B2B into this, because this is ultimately a discovery platform. So you are not just discovering, a customer, you are also discovering an aggregator. And you see, for example, now, we were just discussing with one of the buyer apps. Now, can we have, like, when you're looking at, features that an app should have, now see what is there around my area where I live, for example, in South Delhi. But you want to see what is the price of this particular product in Chandni Chowk in Delhi. I should be able to see that, right? There are wholesalers there, and I should be able to see the price there in wholesalers. So it is actually connecting me with anyone who is in the entire distribution chain, from the manufacturer right up to the consumer.
Thank you so much for that, Anil. And
Surajit, I just want to add one. Yeah. Just sorry, Anil started by saying that probably we haven't got it fully well. So when he said that it was started at the time of pandemic, it was not a short-term solution. They collectively worked together for a solution that has an ability to transform the commerce, and that can form a foundation for the whole world. It was not a short-term, immediate knee-jerk reaction that sometimes we complain about. He created about a vision which can do every end-to-end chain of transaction, like he said, from manufacturer to end consumer at multiple layers, seamlessly using the same protocol. And that was a brilliancy of this, this whole model that India as a country has developed, which has been triggered by Anil and his team with the guidance from the minister. I think that is why, in fact, that is a problem that is we are solving for the world, not just for India. The idea, because if you look at UPI if you look at third world problem, okay. Whereas this is not about a third world problem; it's a global problem. If you look at anywhere, anybody is struggling on the same issue, concentration. And that's, I think, beauty that we need to be aware of it, Surajit.
And
absolutely,
all your audience today, they must understand that if they are investing into ONDC today, they are potentially creating solutions not just for their communities or for India, but for the world. Do you know that SoftBank, for example, just taking names, SoftBank, whole lot of companies in India, portfolio companies, all of them are looking at ONDC compliance because they know that this is going to be the new way of commerce across the world. We are extremely proud of the way, this entire project has done. UPI could be a potential substitute for a SWIFT system, for example, right? UPI is going global now. We are in talks with Singapore. We are now testing with UPI. All the remittances in UPI. Similarly, I see ONDC going global very much from this place. So all those who are having faith, who are developing apps today, are going to be leaders of global commerce in developed markets. So that is the confidence that I wanted to give them, and that they have full backing of the government of India in this particular endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely, Anil. I think, that is why in my opening I said this is possibly a make in India for the world kind of an innovation, right? One of the greatest that we'll possibly see, and build something which outlives us all. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This was, I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. Thank you so much for your insights. And I think our audience, a lot of my friends from, who are in the digital commerce world would have also enjoyed this. Really thankful for joining in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.